Hey everybody, Derek here to bring another video for Fear the Walking Dead. And what this video is going to be doing is giving my thoughts on the season finale of Fear the Walking Dead, which was The Good Man. I'll really give my thoughts on the episode, what happened, and what I think that it is going to mean for season 2. Just in case you guys are not caught up with Fear the Walking Dead, this video will contain spoilers. Okay. Honestly, I think that was the best episode of season 1. I think that it did a very good job of combining the elements that you would like to see in a zombie apocalypse kind of show, and it really was something that I think we as the audience were waiting for. We've had this build up over the last 5 episodes of, the stuff's gonna hit the fan, and when it does, what is gonna happen, and we finally got that tonight. And I was very happy with it. I think it was a very good finale. I think that it definitely leaves a lot to be desired for the next season. And I really think that, from here, if they really want to, Fear the Walking Dead can go up from here. I really think that it can. I think we're finally moving into that kind of territory. But, overall, I really thought it was a good episode, a great way to end the season. So, basically what happens is that, after the events of the last episode, the group knows about Cobalt. They know that, the city is pretty much going to be destroyed, so they need to get out of there. And they have the plan to go to the compound and rescue Nick and Liza and Griselda, who they still think, might be alive. And so they pack up and they leave, and they don't alert the other neighbors about Cobalt. The idea of being, well, they weren't necessarily there for us. And, that is a tough thing, and I think that throughout the episode, this was again one of those first times for a lot of people where we saw, these moral implications of your actions and the consequences of them. That maybe if they would have went door to door and went knock, 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 hey, neighborhood's about to be destroyed, get the heck out, that they wouldn't have made it there in time. And that is a very tough, balance to have, but I can also understand this idea of you need to watch out for your own family first. I think that all of us can identify with that concept, that if we were in a situation like this, our family comes first. If we can help others, then we will, but in this, in this time, they could not. And of course, they have a big dilemma of what do they do with Adams, the soldier that Salazar was torturing in the last episode. What do they do with him? Do they kill him or do they let him go? And of course, people had differing opinions on that. Salazar was prepared to kill him, obviously he tortured him, obviously there's gonna be some animosity there, I don't blame him. And, Salazar doesn't want to be presented with that problem, but Travis still, he really is the, moral compass of the show so far. He really is the man of reason and somebody who doesn't want to, accept doing the bad things that you have to do in this world, and he wants to let Adams go. And Salazar and Travis do have a little bit of an argument over that, and they start to take Adams to the compound because Adams says, well, you're going to need me if you want to find, your people. I can help you get through and maneuver through it. But what ends up happening is Travis lets him go, right as they get to the gate. At some point, either Travis cut his vines before that or something, but when they get to the gate, Adams isn't there, so it's pretty clear that Travis let him go. And, maybe there will be moral implications from that later, but, that was a decision that Travis made. He decided not to let Adams die, and he decided to let him go. So they do make it. And, Salazar walks up, he's like, hey, what's up, guys, up in the tower, because there's soldiers, of course, guarding it. And, he's basically able to just walk through because there's walkers following them, which I'm assuming were from the stadium, that maybe there's a chance that they stop by there, let the walkers out, and, they came to the compound. So we have a lot of chaos right now because, the soldiers are trying to evacuate, they're trying to get, their own people out of there, and at the same time, of course, they need to, defend the fences, because that's really all that's keeping the walkers out at this point. So there's a fight throughout the, first half of the episode with the soldiers, killing several of the walkers, but, there's lots of them. I mean, there was probably, in retrospect, thousands of them that were out there. And eventually they do end up breaking down the fences, and various individuals, do die. You do have soldiers that are bitten, and one of them, holy moly, I mean, he gets bitten, and the soldiers are looking at him, and they're like, well, what do? Once you're bitten, you're done. The guy ends up running into the, rear blade of a helicopter, just shreds his head off. And that was very intense, very shocking and very realistic. I mean, what do you do in those situations? I'm sure the soldiers were aware, hey, don't get bit or you're, screwed. So eventually they do break down the fences, and, at this point it's every man for himself and every woman for herself. So eventually the group makes it. Chris and Alicia stay with the vehicle, while the others go in to get Nick, Liza, and Griselda, and a group of soldiers walks by, and they end up taking the one vehicle away from Chris and Alicia, because they, again, they need to get out. They need to fend for themselves. It's over. There's too much chaos, and they really need to get out of there. So they end up, smacking Chris upside the head with one of their machine guns to, in a sense, say, hey, we want this. And Alicia had the keys, and she does fork them over. So, they do lose one of their vehicles, but at least they had three, so they were okay in the end. But while this is going on, you also have Strand and Nick, who initiate their own plan of escape. They do get out, and they end up leaving the other people that were, in the cages there, because the key only works for their cage. Really just this idea of, hey, we're for ourselves. And that's really, the way that Strand is. He's very oriented towards himself. And I can't say that I entirely blame him, because that's just, the way that the world is for some people. There's some people in this kind of an environment that they're just going to fend for themselves, that they don't want to worry about other people, they don't have time to. And, Strand and Nick just leave everybody behind. And they eventually make their way to, some type of, a hallway, doorway somewhere, and they actually find the soldier that Strand had been bribing with his jewelry to keep Nick in the cell. He's being eaten by a walker, and the guy asks for Strand to kill him, and Strand just says, yeah, you're on your way, buddy, don't worry, it's gonna happen. And he doesn't put him down. You really have Strand making that calculated decision of, look, I'm not wasting a bullet on you. You're keeping the walker occupied, and, hey, maybe you deserve that. I don't know. But, again, you have these various different individuals making choices throughout the episode. Strand takes the gun, and him and Nick run down the hall, and they end up getting trapped in between these doors because it needs a key card to let them through. So, they're cornered. This is it. And at the same time, while this is happening, you have Madison and Travis and the Salazars coming in, and they basically, they're able to reunite with Liza. They let some of the people out of the cages. Travis and Madison go around and let some people out because, again, they have the time, even though Salazar says we need to go. And they eventually do find Nick and Strand in the hall. And, they're trying to get the door open, and it's not opening, the key card's not working. And Nick at one point just says, you know what, Mom, you gotta go. And instead, though, they were able to miraculously, at the last second, great, television world miracles there, get the door open, and they're able to get out, and they get saved. But the danger's not over. They are attacked by several walkers in a kitchen area, and we do see some nice walker action. We do get to see, the group actually fending for themselves and killing a few walkers. A couple of close calls there. We have, one just lays on top of Liza, and then you had another one that grabbed Madison, and if it weren't for Nick, his quick action, Madison might have been bitten as well. So, I mean, you really do have some things that we wanted to see ever since the show started. and I was very happy with that. Now, of course, the Salazars find out that Griselda has died, and there's nothing that they can really do about that. They do find Dr. Exner, who's been euthanizing the patients, that were sick, because really there's nothing left at this point. I mean, the evac's gone. There's really nobody that's going to come and save them, and some of those people can't be moved. And when you're in that kind of a situation, rather than let people get eaten, she decided to put them out of their misery. And, she's just so disillusioned by it that she doesn't go with the group. Liza wants her to, but Dr. Exner's pretty much out of it. So, and I'm assuming she probably killed herself, soon after they left, because she's holding that gun that she was using. She's just holding it like this, and I'm assuming that she was gonna maybe do the deed herself, once everything was finished. So after getting everybody, they reunite at the vehicle, and while they're on their way out, they see a big pile of burnt ashes, of bodies that they burned, and they take a moment and realize that Griselda was probably burned along with those other individuals. That's what they did. They burned the corpses. Possibly to prevent the infection from spreading. They get out to the vehicles, and then who shows up? Adams, the soldier that that Travis let go. Those implications of your actions, it happened in this episode. And Adams is holding a gun on them. He's prepared to kill Salazar. Of course, he wants revenge for, Salazar cutting his arm open and everything. And Ophelia is, yelling, like, telling him, don't do this, Adams, don't do this. And just because she's in a sense yelling, he ends up shooting her. So Ophelia's shot. Now, the good news is that it wasn't in a sensitive area. It wasn't like it was in her heart or her head. It was kind of like in her shoulder, arm region. So, according to Liza, she's gonna pull through. So that's good news. Bad news, though, is you have Travis, who just goes nuts on him, and he basically beats his face in, and I'm assuming, Adams dies as a result of the beating. Kind of reminiscent of that moment in the comic books when, if you're familiar with The Walking Dead itself, its comic books, Rick beats up one of the prisoners that was actually going around killing individuals that were there. And, I mean, he just pulverizes his face in the comics. And it was similar, it really made me think about that. Like, wow, this reminds me of that moment when Rick beat up Thomas. And I think that it was a very intense moment. It was really Travis, finally, in a sense, getting in the game here, if you want to look at it that way. So, he realizes, I screwed up. I let this guy go, and he came back and almost killed people. And I think that decision is definitely going to be weighing on him down the road, and it may influence decisions that he makes later on in the series. So I think that was a big moment for him. The group ends up going to Strand's house. It's near the water, and they get there. He has a yacht called Abigail, which I'm assuming they're going to get on and sail down the coast. That's going to be the way that they survive. Because Strand was talking about how, they need to always be on the move. And that does, in a sense, make sense. Because, even though he has a nice house near the water, if walkers came there, they would absolutely be trapped just based on the circumstances. So, everything seems all hunky-dory. Hey, we made it. And then Liza, she hugs Chris, tells him that she loves him, and walks out and goes down towards the beach. Madison sees her going, wondering, where are you going, Liza? So she ends up following her out, and it's discovered that Liza was bitten at the part in the kitchen when that walker was on top of her. She got bit right on her stomach. And obviously there's nothing that can be done. She knows exactly what happens to individuals that are bitten. And she does tell Madison that. She goes, there's nothing that can be done. The infection kills you. There's no coming back from a bite. And she also lets them know that no matter how they die, unless it's a bullet to the head, they're going to come back. So she does let them know that. And she doesn't want to go through that. And I don't blame her. I mean, that is a terrible way to die. I mean, we saw Jim, die that exact way, and it's not pleasant, and it's very hard to see. And she gives the gun to Madison. She says, I can't kill myself. I can't do it. Um, and she asks Madison to put her down, reminding her of the time when Madison, back in the third episode, Madison asked Liza that if anything were to happen to her, that she would want Liza to put her down rather than Travis because it would destroy him. And Liza is asking Madison to do the same thing for her. So she hands over the gun, and then, of course, Travis shows up on the scene, and, he's all, upset about everything. And there's a moment where, it's time, Liza's made peace and she's, ready to go. And Travis asks Madison to hand the gun over to him. It just holds his hand out, and we see Madison hand it to him. However, the camera goes to something else, like a shot of the overall house, and then Chris and Alicia standing on the balcony, and we hear the gunshot, and we see Liza is dead, but we don't know who shot her. So that could be something that may be a development later on. I mean, we really don't know whether Travis did shoot Liza, or whether Madison at the last minute, wrestled the gun from him and, did it herself, realizing, how much that was going to hurt him. And that's definitely a big question going in to the next season. Who did it? Because there really was this idea of, look, if Travis has to do it, it's going to destroy him. And maybe he did. And maybe we will see that there's some implications later on down the road. On the other hand, if Madison wrestled the gun from him and did it herself, then, maybe there might be a little resentment there between Travis and Madison that, we may find out later on down the road, but we don't know at this point. But the episode ends, with Chris finding his mother dead, and he is, of course, upset. And then Travis collapses on his knees in the water, like in the beach when the tide's coming in. And Madison just comes up behind him and, holds him and comforts him. And it just ends with a beautiful shot over the ocean. And, I think that it really was a great finale. I think they really delivered everything that we wanted in a finale. This is finally, I think, things that we've been wanting to see in Fear the Walking Dead that really we hadn't seen much of yet. And I really hope they continue to do things like this going into season 2. And I'm really looking forward to it. But of course, I'm also really looking forward for The Walking Dead to start next Sunday, 7 days from now, and we will be watching the season 6 premiere. I am so excited. I cannot wait for that. So, let me know what you guys think of the video. I will be doing a couple of Fear the Walking Dead analysis videos, plus a couple more Walking Dead videos. You guys have any suggestions? Don't be afraid to leave them. Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming. And again, if you guys have any suggestions, I really do appreciate them. And I want to thank all of you guys who have been following me and who have subscribed to me. I really do appreciate your support. And, I appreciate your feedback. And I appreciate the discussion that I have with all of you about Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, and, of course, Z Nation. Thanks again, everybody. And I really hope you have a wonderful evening.